If you open any personal finance book written between 1995 and literally this morning, someone with suspiciously white teeth is going to look you in the digital eye and tell you that the reason you cannot afford a house is because you bought an iced oat milk latte on a Tuesday. And before we move ahead, if you haven't subscribed so far, please subscribe. Thanks. Moving on. So we were talking about the iced oat milk latte on a Tuesday. They will sit there with a spreadsheet and do that smug little calculator trick where they say, if you just stop buying your little $5 treat and save $20 a week, invest it in an index fund averaging 8% annual returns. In 45 years, you will have nearly $450,000. And on paper, that math is technically correct. In the real world, 45 years from now, $450,000 will buy you exactly half a studio apartment in a flooded coastal basement and a six-pack of synthetic eggs. Welcome back. I am Max, broadcasting live from my ergonomic desk chair that has permanently molded itself to the exact curvature of my corporate despair. Before we go any further, a quick reminder. I am an exhausted guy who drinks 4 cups of cold brew a day to survive back-to-back status sinks. This is definitely not financial advice. If you take financial advice from a guy wearing a wrinkled button-down whose primary daily victory is not screaming into his headset, that is entirely between you and your therapist. Let us talk about the myth of the $20 weekly sacrifice. Every single piece of legacy money advice is built on this bizarre Victorian morality play where poverty is a personal character flaw caused by a lack of discipline. The narrative is always that you are broke because you lack restraint. You bought avocado toast, you ordered takeout when you worked a 12-hour shift, you bought a scented candle to make your 400-square-foot shoebox smell slightly less like seasonal depression. If you just suffered a little bit more, if you just shaved $20 off your weekly grocery bill by eating unseasoned lentils, the magical compound interest fairy would descend from heaven and hand you the deed to a suburban 3-bedroom home. Here is the cold, unhinged mathematical reality that nobody on Finance TikTok wants to put in their aesthetic carousel post. Saving $20 a week equals $1,040 a year. Over 10 years, if you put that in a high-yield savings account or an index fund, you might have around $13,000 to $15,000. Now let us look at the other side of that equation. In 1980, the median home price in the United States was roughly $47,000, while the median household income was around $21,000. That was a home price-to-income ratio of just over 2 to 1. Today, the median home price is over $420,000, while the median individual income is hovering around $48,000. In major metro areas, the ratio is 8 to 1, 10 to 1, or 12 to 1. Meanwhile, rent has eaten up more than 35 to 40% of median entry-level wages in almost every major city for the last 5 years straight. The average used car costs nearly $30,000. Health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket deductibles have outpaced wage growth by double digits. Over the last 2 decades, you are not failing to build wealth because you spent $20 on chips and a sparkling water. You are struggling to build wealth because the foundational cost of staying alive has detached from the gravitational pull of standard corporate salaries, telling someone making $45,000 in 2026 to fix their financial life by cutting $20 a week is like handing someone a novelty cocktail umbrella during a Category 5 hurricane and telling them they are just not holding it firmly enough. The real trap of the micro-saving obsession is what psychologists call decision fatigue and moral licensing. When you spend your entire week agonizing over whether you deserve a $3 pastry, you are expending massive amounts of emotional bandwidth on micro-optimizations that literally move the needle 0.01%. You walk around with this low-grade hum of guilt. You feel guilty about buying groceries, you feel guilty about hanging out with your friends, you feel guilty about spending $10 on a movie ticket. And here is the absolute kicker. Obsessing over $20 a week keeps you focused entirely on defense while completely ignoring offense. Personal finance advice loves defense because defense puts all the blame on you. If the system is rigged, that is depressing. But if it is your fault for buying takeout, well, now you have an action item. You can download a budgeting app, track every single penny, feel terrible about yourself every Sunday night, and convince yourself that you are taking control. It is an illusion of control. So if saving $20 a week is not going to save us, what actually will? Let us break down what actually moves the needle. Because nobody in human history ever built financial security purely by clipping coupons and turning their thermostat down to 55 degrees in February. First, we have to talk about the brutal truth of the gap. Your financial life is determined by exactly one metric, the gap between what you bring in and what you spend on the big three expenses. The big three are housing, transportation, and debt service. If you want to save real money, you do not look at your daily coffee. You look at your rent, your car payment, and your interest rates. Cutting $20 off your grocery bill takes 52 deliberate acts of daily willpower a year and nets you $1,000. Negotiating your rent, moving in with a roommate for 2 years, or driving a paid-off 10-year-old. Toyota, instead of financing a $35,000 crossover, saves you $500 to $1,000 every single month on autopilot with zero daily willpower required. That is $6,000 to $12,000 a year. That is not $20 a week. That is a life raft. Second, we need to talk about income ceiling versus expense floor. Your expenses have an absolute mathematical floor. You cannot reduce your spending below zero. You need calories, you need shelter, you need clothes. And you need a high-speed internet connection so your boss can message you on Slack at 8:15 in the morning asking if you have bandwidth for a quick sync. There is a hard limit to how much you can cut. Your income, however, does not have a theoretical ceiling. Now, I know what you are thinking. Max, telling me to just make more money is the most annoying, out-of-touch advice possible. The job market is currently an algorithmic nightmare where you submit 300 applications into an automated applicant tracking system just to receive an automated rejection email 42 seconds later. I hear you. I live in this exact meat grinder every single day. But here is the distinction. You do not need to start a dropshipping empire or become an influencer selling crypto courses from a rented Lamborghini. The most realistic, non-delusional way regular people actually change their trajectory is asymmetric skill leverage and strategic job mobility. The data is relentlessly clear on this. People who stay at the same company for more than 2 years get average annual merit increases of 3 to 4%, which in most recent years barely matches or actually loses to real inflation. People who switch companies strategically every 2 to 3 years, average salary jumps between 10 and 25%. That single jump does more for your lifetime net worth than 40 years of skipping iced coffee. Third, we have to look at the power of the emergency buffer over the fake investment fantasy. The finance influencers love to tell you to invest every spare penny into index funds immediately. But if you have $500 in an index fund and $0 in cash, and your car alternator explodes next month, what happens? You either sell your investments at a loss or you put the $1,200 repair on a credit card charging 28.9% APR. That 28.9%. Interest rate instantly annihilates any 8% market return you thought you were building. The most radical, life-changing financial move you can make in your 20s or 30s is not picking the perfect stock. It is building a boring, unsexy $3,000 cash buffer in a high-yield savings account that prevents you from ever touching high-interest consumer debt again. Debt is a wealth vacuum. If you can eliminate the leak, you stop drowning. Fourth, stop playing the lifestyle inflation game against people who are secretly drowning in debt. We look at social media and see 24-year-olds taking quarterly European vacations and driving brand new leased luxury vehicles, and we assume we are doing something wrong. We assume everyone else has cracked the code. They have not cracked the code. Consumer credit card debt in America has crossed $1.1 trillion. Buy now, pay later services are currently financing everything from designer sneakers to burritos. Half the people you think are thriving are literally 2 missed paychecks away from total financial collapse, floating their lifestyle on minimum monthly payments and vibes. Do not sacrifice your peace of mind trying to match a standard of living that is financed entirely on credit and delusion. Here is the counterintuitive insight that nobody wants to admit. Giving yourself permission to spend $20 on the small things that keep you sane is actually a superior long-term financial strategy. When you put yourself on an extreme, austere zero-fund starvation budget, you do the exact same thing people do on crash diets. You restrict yourself for 3 months, you feel miserable, you burn out, and then you snap and drop $800 on an impulse shopping spree because your brain is screaming for dopamine. Treat your budget like a sustainable lifestyle. Pay your future self first by automating whatever realistic amount you can into your emergency fund the day you get paid. Keep your fixed big-ticket costs as low as humanly tolerable. And then, take the remaining discretionary change and buy the iced coffee without apologizing to the ghost of an 80-year-old billionaire who bought his first house for a bag of nickels in 1962. You cannot austerity budget your way out of a systemic wage-to-cost of living mismatch. You can only protect your mental health, aggressively protect your downside from predatory debt, ruthlessly minimize your fixed structural overhead, and focus your limited energy on expanding your income rather than agonizing over $20 line items. If this made you feel even 5% less guilty about your daily life, consider hitting that subscribe button. It costs $0 a week, it generates an infinite return on relatable corporate misery, and it directly supports my ongoing quest to afford an apartment that has both natural sunlight and an in-unit washer-dryer. Take care of yourself. Stop stressing over the latte, and I will see you in the next one.